Okay, folks, what a month it's been. I haven't gotten around to editing this particular video because I've been extraordinarily busy, but then I probably use that excuse all the time. For one, the car that was stolen came back. They found it, we recovered it early in the month, and amidst everything else that was going on this month, I ended up selling it only a couple of days ago. So that's taken care of. Meanwhile, most of my gardening has been at my parents' place. I am right now in the midst of another DIYary, reworking the sprinkler system at their place. I got 2 days in on it, and that video will come out sometime after I finish the project, which actually could turn into an extended project, but I'm going to try and kind of rein it in so I don't end up with a 2-hour video. That said, here's what the garden here looks like. I haven't bothered to clean up, so I apologize for that. The one thing that is doing extraordinarily well is the 4 o'clocks. These were plants that I had bulbs that I planted. I'm so used to 4 o'clocks coming in the form of seeds, but apparently they turn into bulbs underground, and you can pull those bulbs and move them elsewhere, like I've done here. And so let me sort of step into the picture. I apologize, I'll try and stabilize this a bit. We've got down here, this isn't, I don't even know what's in there. Nothing really. Over here, a couple of random plants, I'm not sure what they are, but they're growing. I've been fortunate, I haven't been coming out and watering, but one of the neighbors here does a lot of cleaning, sweeping up, and usually takes care of all the leaves on the walkway in the morning. But I'm responsible for taking care of this, and then the gardeners come around almost twice a week. Sometimes they don't show up, and they usually just use their leaf blower and blow it all out. That's why I end up with leaves in the planters. We've got the polka dot plant here, and that one's, you know, it's still alive. It's kind of fallen over, but surviving that way. But then here's the really big 4 o'clock, which started as a bulb, what, a month and a half ago? Something like that. Not bad for growth there. And considering at least one of these, either this one or that one, I thought was just a dead bulb, and I planted it just out of curiosity, and this is what I've got. I'm quite happy with what I'm seeing. This one's nice and tall. Something is eating the leaves. I've got some kind of leaf hopper, but I'm not even going to fight that right now because it's growing so well. I might get some marigolds and try and plant them. Over here we've got this particular 4 o'clock, which fell over, and I've now put my trellis back up and secured it to that. I've got a third, I think this is also a 4 o'clock. It's just my batch of 4 o'clocks, so I'm happy with that. We've got the old standby purple orchid tree, which that's all you really see on that one. We've got the live oak has moved over there, and it's doing quite well. And I think it's just the fact that they turn the sprinklers on every so often. It keeps them alive because I have not been taking care of them. And finally, we've got another purple orchid tree over there. What remains in that white planter it's inconsequential at this point. So I'm just happy that I have some life in the garden here. And with that, I think I'll turn you over to what I recorded during the month. Good morning, gardening friends. Well, at least it is for me. My big project that I've been working on is finally over. I'm sure there will be some pickup things to deal with, but it's done, and I can finally get back to gardening, at least in the way that I've been gardening this year, which is mainly coming to my parents' place and cleaning up the front yard and trying to keep on top of the weeds and everything else. So I'm back here today for the first time in probably 2 or 3 weeks. Beginning of the month, not a whole lot was happening garden-wise. We did have some rain, and in fact, actually back at home, my home, we did have some lightning and thunder and hail. That was interesting. And then a couple of days ago we had another rainstorm. It was supposed to be just barely spitting, and the next thing I know it's coming down pretty steady. Not real heavy, but pretty consistently steady, if that makes any sense. I don't know if it's a shower or a storm, or the meteorologists have all their terms. If somebody wants to inform the rest of us, please do. But it wasn't real heavy, it wasn't cats and dogs, but it was a good steady rain, and for probably a good half hour. So stuff back at home got some water, and I have to get some shots of that. But anyway, I'm here. I'm gonna see what I can do to clean up. Over on that end, it is garbage day, that's why the garbage cans are there. But over on this end, I'm gonna try and get to cleaning out some of the stuff a little bit further up, making sure that's good, making sure this bed, which always gets covered with stuff, is cleaned out. And I've already started sweeping, as you can see, so let's see what we get today. Well, here we are over on the sort of end of the property, and that's, I'm not sure what that plant is, but I think it's okay. Problem is, I noticed the sumac is back. That was really quick. It's only been, what, a couple of months, and it's that big. So now I'm gonna have to go up there, chop it down, take a tool to try and cut out as much of that wood as I can. And if you go back and watch a couple chapters ago, you'll see that there's a whole thing I did where there's like a giant hole on the side of the hill. Not anymore. So something to attack. I'm gonna try and get on top of that and clean all the rest of this up, and we'll go from there. Well, I don't know how well this is gonna come through. I've just spent, well, I spent a bunch of time clearing out a bunch of fallen leaves and larger sticks, branches. But the sumac up there, I cut off all the live branches. I'm into the stump again. I've tried to do this before. I just went up there with a cold chisel because I didn't want to mess up the good wood chisel. And the cold chisel is a lot wider. Use that with a hammer, trying to separate a piece of it, so if I can get a good chunk of kind of live bark or live wood, then I can put the stump killer on that. Because what's happening, it looks like, is even though I've put the stump killer on it, it kills the stump only like a couple inches in, and then beyond that it's still alive. So right now what I'm trying to do is cut off a chunk of it so that I can get a much better coverage with the poison. So we'll see. Alright, I guess I'm going to give you guys a close-up because this has turned into more of a battle than I thought. But the good news is I found sort of a very large root. I thought this was going to have fibrous roots all over the place, but there's one giant root diving back into the hill. So I can go get a saw and cut that off, which will take a major chunk out of this. Then I can excavate around and see if I can find another one of those. Unfortunately, the bad news is that means that's a stem from some other part of the root system, which is diving into the hill. So who knows how far back it might go, and there are other plants here that I don't want to yank out just to get this. So we'll do that much for today. And then I got to get to the actual lawn and other stuff. But we'll give this a shot. Alright, well, I got a major chunk out of it. Not all of it. It's not worth pursuing all of it right now. I can come back another day and try and take another chunk, or we just let it go for a couple of months and see if it starts trying to grow back. But I put some stump killer on the exposed parts that I was able to get to. The other stuff that was easier to cut through was the stuff that's already rotted. So anyway, that's where we are on that one. It was a good productive morning. Now it's time for lunch and on to the lawn and everything else. Well folks, it's a bit after 4 and I'm pretty well spent, but it's what the lawn looks like. A little bit more manicured than before. You already saw kind of what it looks like over there, and then around the side I did a little bit more cleaning, and I'm just surprised that it's taken as much time as it has to get through it all. But I pretty much got the front yard and a little bit of the side yard done today, so that feels like an accomplishment. Who knows when I'll be back again, if I have to do it all over again. I mean, grass grows, everything grows, and ultimately it all grows enough that it takes quite a bit to cut it all down or cut it back or trim it or prune it or whatever. So anyway, that's it for today. Alright, it's a couple of days later. I'm back at Mom and Dad's place helping out again. And I wanted to show you, I don't think I've showed you this since we planted. The two bulbs we got from the neighbor, that's one of them right there. And there's another one over here, which is a little shorter. And I'm trying to remember if we planted, no, actually we didn't plant smaller bulbs, but we did plant seeds for the 4 o'clocks, and you can see them there. But somehow they seem to have migrated over here too, behind a tree, where there's just a nice little patch of sun. So we're just going to go ahead and leave them there for now, see what they turn into. I'm pretty sure those are 4 o'clocks, just from the shape of the leaves and kind of how they're bent and curled. But I wanted to show you one other thing. This, I'm pretty sure, is actually a seed pod from one of the 4 o'clocks that has managed to dry out, which might explain why there's so many of them in the bed here when we only planted 8. They just fall, and they're small enough, the seeds are small enough that you don't really see them. Let me see if I can do this without shaking too much. I'm going to try and break this open and see if... Well, that didn't turn into much. I guess that wasn't actually a seed pod from that. That looks like a different seed pod, so I'm going to sweep that up before it ends up growing something else. Oh heck, while I'm in camera mode, I've been wanting to show you what this all looks like over here. It actually looks like most of it died off, but there's one down here, and one over there, and a smaller one over there. Those seem to be the only ones that survived. But of course at home I've got the two that looked like they were dead, which turned out to be, or I'm pretty sure they are, 4 o'clocks. I'm back at Mom and Dad's place. I believe it's the 24th. It's a Wednesday. I'll let you calculate that if you want. We're back actually planting. This is kind of a seasonal thing. We put some stuff in here, and then the sun really starts to bake things and kill it off, and it doesn't look so good. So we are now pulling some stuff and moving it around and planting some new stuff. Over there we've got a bougainvillea. The one we had in that pot did not survive for whatever reason. We're still trying to figure that out, so we put a new one in there, and that's why it looks maybe a little bit better than that one. And I've turned the soil up above on this whole sort of terrace thing that we have, and transplanted some new stuff in there. I'll be transplanting some stuff in there, then I'll be pulling all of this out and putting it in pots so Mom can decide where she might want to put it. But this is the sort of cooler weather crop. We need to put in stuff that's a bit more hardy. So that's what it looks like. Okay, so I was taking a bit of a breather, and I realized the cacti are in bloom. I think that's pretty nice. I don't know how often they bloom. We've got the other, they're starting to kind of, I think those have actually come and gone, but we got a couple over here that are starting to come. I hope you can see that. Oh, there, sorry. So, pretty nice. Good afternoon, gardening friends. Well, it's a couple days later. I didn't give you the wrap up on what I was doing in the back, but I'm back in the front. Mowed the lawn, and this is actually something that Dad was working on when I was working in the back a couple days ago. He was adding soil here because when we built this wall, before we built this wall, the lawn used to slope down to the street. Okay, let's try that again. What you're looking at here is I've mowed the lawn. I was weed whacking it and the rest of that. It almost seems like one of those things where you start with something simple and then it turns into more complex, but honestly what you're seeing with the soil here is Dad did that a couple of days ago while I was in the back, And this lawn used to originally slope downwards towards the sidewalk, and then we built the wall and we filled it in, but we didn't fill it in quite enough, and so it still kind of dives down a little. So he was trying to fill it in with some soil, and he did what many of us have done in the past, where you're working on something and you go, oh, I forgot about that. Okay, well, I'll remember that for later. And he just kept piling soil in, and ultimately realized later that he had buried two of the I'm hoping I'm getting that in the shot here. I'm having trouble seeing my screen. There we go. He buried a couple of the sprinkler heads, so I got that one, and I'm now working over here. It's a much bigger excavation because I need to raise this one up a few inches. But what I wanted to point out here was sometimes you discover things, and what I'm seeing in there is a drain pipe that comes all the way from the back deck in the backyard. There are drains in that deck if the pool overflows or water gets splashed out, and when it rains. And it drains out and comes to the street, and this is part of that pipe, because if I just kind of follow the angle that that's going at, you can see there's where it comes out. And so I always thought that this thing went kind of up this way towards the backyard, but no, apparently it comes in under the lawn and it makes a turn at some point. So that's where that is, and I just wanted to make sure that I made record of it. So when you're working in your yard, sometimes you'll discover something. Make a note of it, because it might come in handy later. Oh, and the other thing I noticed was that there's a joint right there, so that's worth noticing. Apparently what they did was they put a pipe down, they laid the sidewalk, or at least formed the sidewalk. That way they had the pipe ready to go, and then they could, when they built this place, they could lay that pipe down before they backfilled in where the lawn is. So it's just nice to know that there's a joint right there, and it's right under the sprinkler head. Okay, well, that's kind of what that was about. I was trying to even it out, making it look reasonably even. We'll let the grass grow in and work its way over. That's what we did before, and now we've kind of covered a bunch of it up. Actually, over here is, you can kind of see if you follow the line, where we didn't end up filling in here, so the grass that managed to grow, that's a good thing. We've got over here is I'm trying to make a decent line around the tree, and there's some grass growing in, so I'm going to go ahead and cut that stuff out like sod and plant little tufts of it in there, which will help. Well, folks, it may be a little hard to see because of the position of the sun, but this is the finished product. There, now it's going to lighten up a little, but you can see that's what a day's. Unfortunately, it took a day to do. I've got one more thing I can do, but, well, honestly, it's probably 5 hours work, not a full day. But anyway, now there's the question of the side yard, which, if you remember, I think a couple of episodes ago, a couple of chapters ago, I did all that sort of work to terrace that up there for the fruit trees. Looks like we got a couple of lemons. We got a few lemons. That's not, oh, wait a minute, these are lemons, those are oranges, which are not ripe yet. But anyway, now I'm going to see what I can do. We needed some soil for that front yard project, so I'm going to see if I can't make this look a little bit neater. Okay, well, I think that looks a little bit better, at least for a patch of dirt. At least it doesn't look like it was chopped into so badly. Just kind of a question of feathering it in. I had this one tool that's kind of a, how do I describe it? It's like a hatchet, not a hatchet, kind of like a hatchet turned on its side. It's got a blade that I can cut things with, and on the other side it's got a cultivator. So it's kind of a combination tool, and I use kind of the hatchet side to just kind of hit the upper part of the hill and loosen it up, and then I can kind of rake it out, and then I just take my hand and feather it in. And that's the end result. So now there's a bunch of junk up there, and I'm debating whether to go up there and try and remove it, just to kind of get a little bit more done today. There's still some sunlight. Okay, that was a long video. I tried to edit it down a bit, but it is what it is. Pretty much represents my month. So that's what's going on around here and at my parents' place. And this is the Budget Gardener signing off, saying may your thumb be green. Thanks for watching. I really enjoy making these gardening videos. If you enjoy them too, feel free to like and subscribe. Meanwhile, here are some links to other videos I've made, both gardening and otherwise. Have a great day.